Second half of day three. With us is Cara North talking about learning experience design. This is going to be an amazing session, so I'm going to hurry up, get out of the way, and hand over the reins. We're already getting comments through. People are pumped for this one.
Well, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here. It's such an honor to be back at IDTX. I really enjoyed last time and also honored that Tom would have me back after bringing some spice and heat last time. So if you like spice and heat, this is definitely the session for you. So without further ado, let's get started. So what I'm going to be talking about is learning experience design. And this is a topic that and a title that you've probably likely seen, especially in the last 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how I first learned about it, a little bit of what this means, and then I'm going to wrap up with just some tips for you if you're looking to kind of up your game, some things that you might want to consider. But what I want to start with here is, these three pictures here of these users. I picked them kind of deliberately for several reasons. So first reason is the last couple of years has been difficult on, I think, every human on the planet. All right. So since kind of everything has happened, first of all, we have definitely been taking in more blue light, making us look a little blue. There have definitely been a lot of challenges. This professional line of business and personal has continued to blend. It's been really kind of difficult to break things down. But I heard a quote that I really liked, and it says, "You are not lazy, you're uninspired." And that really sat with me because I said, you know what? Yes, like it's not that necessarily I'm lazy for certain tasks, but sometimes I'm just uninspired to get things done. So, in the past couple of years, there has been this rise of what I'm going to call panic gogy, which is kind of a riff off of pedagogy. And basically, what I mean by that is there's just been this rapid development of online, I want to use learning in quotations here, experiences that have just been just get it online, get it out the door, and people will like it. And they don't like it. And they don't like it for several reasons. One, it's already what they feel like is a waste of their time. Two, they already look like this. They've taken in a ton of blue light already in the last couple of years working on their computers and things. And three, it's not inspiring to them because we don't relate it to them. This rapid development, this panicagogy of getting things online in the last couple of years has really, I think, made a negative impact on our field. During kind of the pandemic, the beginning, I made the joke like, "Hey, everybody knows what instructional design is. People actually know what I do for a living now." And I was like, this is our time in the sun. Like this is our moment to shine. But yet, organizations continue to load in crap into their systems and push out stuff to make people look like this. So if you don't believe me, you might want to think about something that maybe you got in your own organization. But I find it fascinating that people would rather work than take your learning experiences. If you think about it, they wait to the absolute last possible minute to get it done. So is it all doom and gloom? Hopefully not, right? So I'm going to talk in a little bit about how you can make better learning experiences so you can fix the blue people in your organization. But I want to be very, very clear here. I am not in what I call the underwear business. So I think a big part of the reason everything moved online so rapidly, this panic goji came out, is because there was this preponderance for us to cover the bums of our organizations. Oh, they need trained. They need to put it out there. We need to make sure that we tick the box that they're trained. Well, last time I checked, I did not dedicate my life's work to be in the underwear business. All right. So I think that this has really been a problem. It's probably always been a problem, to be really honest, but I think it's a problem that's really kind of bubbled up a lot in the last couple of years because, again, there's just been this rapid development and rapid movement of things online as quickly as possible. So let me know in the chat. I'm kidding. J Rock and Tom are talking over here in the chat, but I am really curious, have you felt like you've been in the underwear business in your organization. I'd like to know yes or no there. And Jonathan Rock says this looks like an album cover. I guess it kind of does. It could definitely be an album cover. But all joking aside, though, there has to be some kind of an equal balance of us enabling people and then also protecting our organizations. So the way that I like to think about it is that I'm actually in the resource support business. All right. Not to break your hopes and dreams, but we exist in our organizations to help enable performance and to help keep money growing in our organizations. Now you're like, well, wait a second, Cara. Usually, learning and development is a money taking element of our organizations, and you're absolutely right. So that is why we should really be thinking about metrics, return on investment, how we are actually giving back to our people, growing them, and making sure that they are able to do their jobs effectively, that they have growth opportunities in our organizations, and that they feel supported. So I really think that there is this big, it's a big responsibility on us. I mean, truly, because we are invested in someone's success and we can help people feel successful, get better, etc. So I want to share a quote with you from probably one of my um, knowledge crushes in the field here. So I had the opportunity back in 2017 to meet Dr. Michael Allen. And this is a really hot take, but I will tell you, I am absolutely appalled of the number of people that don't know who this man is. If you do not know who this man is, you need to stop what you're doing, go to the Google and look him up, because truthfully, and he would not say this because he's a very sweet, kind man, we would not have e-learning if it was not for this man. Back in the 1960s and 70s, he saw a connection between computers and learning. And this was back when computers were like huge rooms, right? So like when one computer would be in a huge room here. And he really started to see this connection, and truly we would not have what we would call e-learning today if it wasn't for him being a pioneer. And I know that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of noise out there now about our industry, but I really challenge you to go beyond the clout seekers who are just posting stuff for SEO credit and really get to know the founding folks of our field. It's really important. But I digress. I'll get off my little soapbox here. But one thing that Dr. Michael Allen said to me, well, not really said to me, but it was a quote that I love so much. I feel like it was said to me, and I love it so much it is now in my email signature, is that if content were enough, we'd only have libraries and not schools. So please let me know if that resonates with you. If content were enough, we'd only have libraries and not schools. Content is not enough. There has to be some kind of an element to it to help it relate it to people, to help people kind of see the connection between the content and what it is that they're doing. So, Dr. Michael Allen, I did actually hear him say this. He actually retired, pretty early on in his career because he had made such a big impact. But he actually came out of retirement because he saw so much bad e-learning. And so that is kind of my spirit animal, if you will, that he cared that much that he kind of came out of retirement for that. So again, if you don't know who Dr. Michael Allen is, you may have heard of the successive approximation model, or SAM. That is also Dr. Michael Allen. So this is like my little side Dr. Michael Allen appreciation post. But I really want you to think about, learning experiences are not just about the content. There has to be some kind of connection about it. But beyond just the content, I would argue that there's another important piece of it that I want you to think about. So I also had the opportunity to talk to Dr. M. David Merrill, and I did that a couple years ago. And I had the opportunity to ask him a question like, what is kind of this relationship in your mind of learning technologies and content? And so he had this amazing analogy. I don't remember if he said he made it or if someone else made it. So if you're watching this and you know, please educate me because I want to give credit where credit is due. But this is not a Cara North original here. But he said, think about learning technologies as a semi truck. And so when I think about this, I think of like a truck like this that's got learning technology kind of on the side of it, right? So learning technology is a semi truck, and then content is the cargo. Okay. So learning technology is the semi truck that's taking stuff somewhere, but then the actual package, the goods, is the content. So my question to you is this, and I'd love to get some engagement here in the chat. Which is more important? Which of these is more important for learning technology? So it would be learning technology or the content. I'd love to know kind of what your thoughts are. Which is more important when it comes to our learning experiences? Now, I will tell you, I see a lot of people, again, looking to transition into learning and development. I think that's wonderful. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I think that it's incredible that so many people are finding out the work that we have been doing. But one thing that I see that is kind of worrisome to me is there's just been this really strong kind of pendulum swing toward just learning the technology. So I'm going to be talking about this a little here in a bit. Okay, so Mike says he thinks it's the content. So okay, I like that. So you have your hopefully you've thought about this enough to think about, okay, which one's more important, the technology or the content? Now let me ask another question here. Does this change your answer at all? Which is more important to our organizations? So, which is more important to our organizations, you think, the learning technology or the content? Does that change your mind at all? All right, Mohammed says the destination is more important than both. Interesting. I like that. Okay. Sadie says there's a relationship between the content and the delivery. Yes. Okay. So, if your answer has changed, maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, I'm going to go a layer deeper here. So, which do you think is more important to our users? Does that change your answer at all for kind of this learning technology and content? We'll call it a battle here, even though it's not really a battle, but in my mind, it's a battle, like a Mortal Kombat battle. Round one, fight. All right. Which one's more important to our users, the technology or the content? All right, both. Tom says content. You, if you deliver, I'm not going to say the word. The method doesn't matter that much. So yeah, I agree. All right. So now that I got this, I'm going to ask one more clarifying question. Which is more important to us? I think I kind of told you what my answer is. I think there has been such a shift and people so excited about learning the technologies. I don't know if they know how important the content is. Because you can build some beautiful learning experience in, I don't know, Articulate Storyline, Adobe Captivate, pick your tool beyond whatever. But if the content isn't right, if the content isn't sizzling, if I can't take that content and say, yeah, okay, I can apply this to my job this way, or this is going to help me be a better widget maker or whatever, I am really curious, what is the point? You wasted my time. And I'm going to go back to being a blue person because I don't have time to take this stuff if it's not going to matter to me. All right. Mike says content is still important. Learning tech just makes it more engaging. Interesting. Can see that. And then J Rock says if he's taking a crappy e-learning, he doesn't care what software built it. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think that the content really does matter. So thank you. Hopefully that was kind of a thought-provoking exercise. I just want us to start thinking about it more because I am just of the school of thought that the technology can definitely be a partner. The technology can definitely be like a delivery method, so to speak. But at the heart of it, to me, I think content is king in the sense that it needs to have some kind of value to the user in order for them to care. All right. J Rock says that he's never said that virtual instructor led training on Zoom would have been better. been better in WebEx. Yeah, I completely agree. So if it is a good experience, it's a good experience, right? So thank you. And thanks, Tom, for popping that up too. All right. So let's talk a little bit about learning experience design. And learning experience design, as I said kind of in the beginning, it is definitely a title that I've seen pop up a lot. And I've taken a lot of, I've saved a lot of different job descriptions where people have, advertised learning experience design in corporate roles, higher education roles, and, even freelance consulting roles. And I'll never forget kind of where I was when I first learned of this term. It was back in 2016. I was a full time staff member and also a graduate student at The Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. And the first time I heard it, I just kind of like turned my head to the side and said, well, what's the difference between that and instructional design? I didn't really kind of get it. And I had a research partner, and here she is. Duran Korkmaz, and she is now in Turkey, and she was from Turkey. And I actually learned a lot from her, even though she didn't have the formal kind of instructional design experience that I had at the time. I learned a lot from her from kind of this emotional design piece of learning experiences. So both Duran and I were part of a research group called the Learning Experience Design Research Group. And from that, we did a lot of research kind of around the topic. And what's fascinating is, much like another term that gets thrown around a lot, learner engagement, there wasn't really a formal academic definition of what learning experience design was. And so we saw there was a lot of influences from kind of, again, this UX UI perspective. We saw that there were a lot of influences from kind of, this design thinking, empathy, feelings, that kind of stuff. We saw that there was a lot of influences from educational psychology. So it was almost kind of like this big melting pot. And to me, it seemed a whole lot kind of like instructional design, at least at first. So then I started digging around a little bit more, and I found Niels Floor, who is probably the first person. I think he calls himself a learning experience design pioneer. I can dig that. I think that's accurate. But he was one of the first people I actually saw kind of try to make a definition of it. And so Niels has a really rich design background. And so he really focused on the fact that LXD in his mind was about creating experiences that enable people towards some kind of an outcome, but then you keep the human in the center of what it is that you're doing. So I was like, okay, I can get behind that. So I really hate defining things. I think, definitions are kind of finite, and that's just my little weird tick about myself. And so I was like, okay, so I'm seeing where he's coming from here. I'm looking at kind of like the research and what people are saying about it. So here's how I kind of, what I'm going to say, operationalize what learning experience design is. So to me, I think it is a mashup of the content plus the context to enable performance. So content plus the context to enable performance. And of course, there has to be people in the center of that. So you may be wondering, okay, I can maybe get behind that. Maybe I can't get behind it. I don't know what you're talking about. I need an example. So I'm going to share an example of what I consider a project that ended up with some good learning experience design. All right. So this is based on a real life scenario, of course. So at the organization that I currently work at, there are a lot of ways that people can talk to us and let the training team know, hey, we have some stuff that we want. So we got an email from a stakeholder who had made a PowerPoint. And basically, what they wanted us to do was upload this PowerPoint into the learning management system and have people read it. And that way they could read about the problem that was going on. So it was, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20 slides, something like that. It talked about, why this was a problem, things that people needed to kind of be aware of, but it was a lot of kind of bullet points. It was very word soup, as I call it. And we didn't really have a lot of information. So just so happens, right before this project came in, I purchased Kathy Moore's Map It book for every member of my team. and we read it together as a team. And we spent a lot of time digesting it. And I said, I want you all to start thinking about implementing this when we get all these different project requests coming in. So I had a member of the team who's amazing that said, "Hey, I want to take this project and this is ripe for action mapping. I want to try it out." And I said, "Fantastic, let's do it." So, first things first, set up a kind of information meeting with a stakeholder and just completely, I have the saying of, we want to act like we're aliens from another world, that we know nothing. And truly, I think when we approach our designs as we have no assumptions, we know nothing, we get much richer data from our stakeholders when we're asking these questions. So she said, "Hey, help me understand that this product that you're creating, why is it important to the business? Why does this continue to happen?" And so through these conversations, a lot of things kind of came out in the wash. So for example, this particular product that the company makes, it takes a very long time to make it. It's a very complex product. So because it's very complex and it takes a lot of time, it's easy for the product to get damaged because it goes through a bunch of different cycles, right? So there's that. Second, the environment that they were making for this particular in the environment they're making it in, it was a area of the plant that was a little bit, darker, a little bit kind of older. There's new parts of the plant, there's kind of old parts of the plant. And so, one of the things that we talked about here was about the ways that people could see errors or defects with this particular product. And something came up like, yeah, you know what? The lighting could be kind of bad in that area. And that makes sense. Maybe that's why people can't catch it. So think about that. We determined in this that one potential reason why this was happening was lighting. Training can't fix that. We could have spent all this money building this amazing learning experience, making everyone go through it. But at the end of the day, if lighting is part of the problem, wouldn't that just been a waste of people's time? Think about that. And I know that there is a lot of information out there about, how to intake, what needs assessment is, whatever. I really think that so many stakeholders think that we have this magic bullet of that we can fix everything, or training's a silver bullet. And honestly, what I found in my career is training is a scapegoat. It's a scapegoat for accountability, it's a scapegoat for environmental factors, it's a scapegoat for fill in your blank here. So we are going to continue to be scapegoats unless we have conversations like this in our organizations. We are going to continue to have that happen until we take ownership and we take accountability and we see ourselves as business partners. Because truly, what we're doing here is we're just trying to help solve an issue. We wanted to get everyone together and like, hey, we know that this is a problem with this product. Help us understand what are the factors going into it. How's this happening? And can training really help? It's important and it gets overlooked so many times. Now, I'm saying this from a place of yes, I do have privilege because I am the leader of the department. I can push a whole lot harder, but I challenge you, if you are, maybe an individual contributor, maybe it's your first role, leech on to your leader and make sure your leader is aligned to this. What leader doesn't want to be aligned to this? What leader doesn't want their department to not be scapegoats anymore? So, yeah, I know that I'm kind of speaking from a different level because I do kind of lead the department, but I just want you all to kind of think about that. So, anyway, long story short, we still were able to help with this project. It just wasn't what it started out as. So there was the PowerPoint that kind of become the base, if you even want to call it a base. Then we talked to engineers. We talked to leaders of that particular department. We talked to people that actually did the job and said, "Hey, what's going on here? Like, what are some of the issues as to why this keeps happening in this area?" And so what we ended up building was kind of this not just this one project, right? So the product was we had scenarios based on, hey, you have this, your machine has this going on. What do you do next? And that's based on things that frequently happen from kind of a little mini task analysis of how they do their job. Additionally, we supported leadership in that by giving them talking points and ways to continue the conversation going after they took the learning experience. because we know that we can only take them so far. At the end of the day, if we really want change and we really want to enable performance, it starts with leadership and it starts with accountability. So we wanted to set the leaders up for success. And hey, how's it going? You remember that learning experience that you took? What other questions do you have? Or, hey, have you seen any different things that's been happening lately? Or, hey, have our numbers changed? Getting leadership involved is critical because no matter what we build, if we don't have support through leadership, it's probably going to fail. Also, we made a contest around this topic because, waste is obviously a big topic for any manufacturing company. And we wanted to kind of make this contest around it to make sure that, other areas knew about pitfalls of, what was happening in this area. And we linked it all back to the technical document that is very long that a lot of people probably avoid, but we wanted to kind of ground it in the technical document that we have, and then have a contest. And we gave out, I think, zero gravity chairs, I believe is what we gave out to the winners. And we had a winner at each site. And it was a very simple question, like identifying, what kind of defect do you think this is? How do you handle our product as it's being manufactured? Kind of, questions like that. And again, if they weren't directly in that department or if they were a little fuzzy, we did have the link back to the technical document. So we know that they're getting in there and getting that experience of digging through. And then, of course, this one is still kind of in development, but we've really also focused on how can we continue to support people in work. So we've talked a lot on our team about performance support. And very frankly, the organization that I'm currently at has had no performance support the entire time they've been in business. So, how can we make something that's easy for people to access quickly to where they don't have to stop what they're doing, try to remember their login and password to our LMS, log into this monolithic system, know the keyword to find something? We need to make it easy for them. So, we have on other projects as well kind of built this system. There's a member of my team that's done a fantastic job of building kind of this nice little template, and we map in kind of our technical documents. We bring in video just to show people quickly how to do things, and we've gotten pretty good response from that. So imagine for a minute, had we just taken that PowerPoint and uploaded it. I'd like to know here in the chat, do you think we would have solved this problem? If we would just took their stakeholder at their word and here it is and just uploaded it, do you think we would have solved the problem? It's kind of a rhetorical question. I don't think we would have, because we really wanted to focus on being collaborators. We really focused on that kind of consultative edge and really wanted to help support the business. So, um, yes, Heidi, I love that. Heidi says that the story is an example of all the times to talk about non-instructional interventions. Absolutely. Um, Tom, that is a good point. Tom says, has uploading the PowerPoint ever solved a problem? Probably not. Probably not. And then J Rock, I love also what you said too about there's many times that the problem gets blamed on human performance errors, and fixing a system is a way better solution than retraining. Sorry, yes. Completely agreed. Yes, Joe, that could be it too. Maybe it was a little too dark to read the PowerPoint. Maybe that's why they had the issues with it. Could definitely be. But yeah, Suzanne, you're absolutely right about being a strategic partner and not an order taker. But let me be clear here. It also depends on where you work at, your level, etc. I'm telling you all this stuff again from the seat of a leader of a department. And I am completely owning that. Your mileage will definitely vary on implementing these things. And I think there's, again, a lot of noise currently about don't you dare be an order taker, you be a performance, whatever. And I am a realistic person, and I have definitely been in your situation in my career where I have tried to be that consultative partner and I completely get shot down. And I go to my leader, my leader's like, what are you doing? Just push it out. It happens. It happens. Now, I'm just being realistic here. It definitely happens. So if you're in a position that happens, don't feel like that's necessarily a failure on you. You can only do what you can only do. And just know that, maybe there might be more opportunities to kind of chip away and build those relationships and build that program, but you're not going to always have it out of the gate. You're not always going to have it out of the gate. All right. I'm sure you do, J Rock. I can only imagine what your horror story says. And yeah, Tom, absolutely. If the CEO says to do it, there's only so much that you can do. All right. So I am writing a book currently. I'm hoping it's going to be out this year, but it's totally on me. If it's not out this year, it might be out early 2023 for ATD. And it's actually has the same title as this presentation, Learning Experience Design, Designing for Users and Impact. And a couple months ago, I kind of had this random thought and I posted it on LinkedIn. And I said, hey, I said, is there any value in kind of building this like competencies, like a map or a funnel, or pick your shape, whatever you want. I just didn't want a pyramid for obvious reasons. But would there be any value in doing this work? Well, it just so happened there was a gentleman that reached out to me, Jeff Horn, who's fantastic at Edward Jones, that said, yes, we are actually looking to do something like this as well for our internal purposes only. And I was able to meet with him and his team. They're fantastic. And some of the stuff that they've done is just incredible. So they have kind of their own version of this. Mine is going to be very, very general, but I really wanted to focus on, what does it mean to do learning experience design? And so I have kind of these three layers here. The core to me is like the absolute fundamentals, right? So these are things that you feel like you absolutely kind of have to master. Applied is, okay, I have the fundamentals down. So like, how do I now apply it? And then strategic to me is kind of like the creme de la creme, like the top. I do think that there are a couple that you will want to be trying to do in the strategic bucket, even if you're not like in a leadership position. But in my experience, I think if you kind of go for the top, it will also kind of serve you. So if you all don't mind, I will spend a little bit of time kind of going through these, and just know that all the rest of this, I mean, I'm going to go very, very high level. It will be covered in the book. So, all right. So for kind of the core, and I'm talking like absolute fundamentals, here are the five that I think is really critical. And I swear to you, if you were on Twitter last week, this is not a hot take. I'll explain a little bit more about that here in a minute. So my kind of my five core here, the first is being research. And when I say research, I don't mean necessarily hardcore academic research, but I meant exactly kind of what I said in that previous example of the dark PowerPoint, I'm going to call it, right? Is that, assume nothing, assume that you are an alien and know nothing, get as much information as possible, gather it up. And then I feel like through that, then you're going to be set up for a really rich needs assessment. But you can't do, in my mind, a really rich needs assessment without kind of doing your research first, right? So I feel like those are kind of in an order that need to be out there. Relationship management. This is key. And I think the sooner you can get good at this and the sooner that you become really well versed in it, the better that you're going to be in your organization and in your career. So I know specifically a lot of the toughest projects that I've been able to get out the door have been because of good relationship management, or what I call relational equity, building partnerships across the business, building partnerships with various stakeholders to make sure that they know what's in it for them when they work with us, and how we can continue to support each other throughout kind of this crazy business world, right? So it's difficult to do. I don't know if you all know this, but humans are weird. They have a lot of complexities and they have a lot of different personalities. So, uh, dealing with people is, I think, always a challenge, right? So the more that you can think of, spinning things to the way of getting people excited about stuff, I think the better that you're going to be. Now, the fourth here, I've had in this for a while. There was a Twitter thread over the past week that basically said that you don't need to have learning science to be quote unquote successful. I respectfully disagree with that, because I find that having a foundation in learning science is critical to know what works and why. So when I have that conversation with a stakeholder who's trying to tell me I need to dedicate everything that I do to multiple learning styles, I can say, well, respectfully, learning styles isn't a thing. And here's the evidence of why. Um, If you need a good primer on this, I will tell you, Clark Quinn has a fantastic book, ATD Press as well, about learning science. I highly recommend it. It's really, really good. I have a physical copy of it, and it's fantastic. And then finally, this is one I don't think gets enough love, but facilitation. So I was telling Tom before we went live today that the last 14 months in my job, we have done in-person training. And when I tell people that, they kind of look at me and they're like, but it's the pandemic. I'm like, yeah, there's these people that actually physically still go in an office during a pandemic. They're called essential workers, and the world's pretty much crapped on them, I feel like. So um facilitation's really, I think, an art and a science. There are people that do it very well. There's people that struggle. So to the degree that you can feel comfortable, what I call rolling with the punches, I believe in Murphy's Law, and Murphy's Law loves no industry more, in my opinion, than learning and development. It's not if, but when. When the technology fails, when the system breaks, when you have somebody that does something to mess something up, or delete a storyboard off of a SharePoint, or I mean the list goes on and on. But the way that you facilitate, and when I say facilitate, I mean the way that you kind of handle people, you talk to them, you deal with it, is so critical. And if you can build strong facilitation skills now, it is going to pay dividends for you in your career. Absolute dividends. And at the beginning of my career, I could put on the happy face, but then I would have to go blow off steam. I cannot tell you, at a particular organization I worked at, I would handle things so good. And then I would put my coat on, walk over to the parking garage, get in my car, and just scream and get it off. And then I would come back in. And it became kind of a joke with because my coworkers knew what I was doing. They're like, oh, you feel better, feel better. But that's what I had to do at that point. That organization did not set me up for success in my role. That's a whole other topic. So facilitation, I think, is really, really important. So here are kind of my five. I'd love to know kind of any feedback on that. I have kind of been writing this book. I have solicited opinions of others, but of course, I always like to hear what other people think. Do you think that's a good core five? Yes, no, maybe. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube, comment below as well. Love to hear that. All right. So applied is kind of the next level up. And here I have 7. And at the very top, I kind of have a little category here in the middle is experience design. And when I'm talking about experience design, I am talking about, how do you know you're building the right thing? What should be in person? What should be e-learning? What should be blended? What should be a job aid? And why? Do you know those answers? Sometimes it's pretty easy. Sometimes it's really not easy at all. Sometimes you will be like, well, for our audience, it really needs to be this. But then you will have a very overzealous stakeholder. It's like, no, 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 it needs to be e-learning, or no, 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 it needs to be a podcast, or no, 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 no. So do you have the ability, and do you have the chops to defend your choices? I think a lot of people that are especially new can't do this at all because they don't have this thing called experience. They haven't been in those situations. They pay for various academies, boot camps, whatever, and they get some experience building things. But having that tough conversation is something that a lot of them don't have. And so then when they get in their respective roles, it becomes a dumpster fire. So really getting a good grounding on what to use and why, and defending your choices is really, really critical. Another big one is knowledge management. The org that I am currently in, we have grown exponentially in the last couple of years. And there's been a lot of new products, new everything. And the fact that we need to kind of build this really robust system to make sure that everything has a place and everything makes sense is really critical. If I were to get hit by a bus today, I wouldn't want the team to suffer. I'd want them to keep going on without me. And they couldn't do that if we didn't have an idea of one, the work that I did, and two, how I do it, right? So I think that it's really critical to keep good documentation and to keep kind of this living, breathing, what I'm going to call system nucleus of content for your organizations to make sure that people are supported in their time of need. There may be something that your organization hasn't done for 5 years, and then magically they need to do it again. Is that documentation up to date? Does people know where it is? How can it be kind of, used? I don't know, but you need to have a knowledge management strategy in place. I think knowledge management is something that so many people have thrown away in the last few years. But again, Murphy's Law, I think Murphy's coming for you. It's not if, but when. You will be called to the carpet about your lack of knowledge management strategy, and then it's going to be too late. All right. I'm just going to go across. So, accessibility and inclusion. Absolute must-haves anymore, right? You never know kind of where someone is accessing your stuff from, and the thing that I love most about it is often especially from an accessibility standpoint, when you put in some additional features and make things more accessible, everyone can benefit from it. All of our videos that we produce now all have captions because we can't assume anyone has headphones on the plant floor, and it's usually pretty noisy when they are accessing content from the shop floor. So, I just think it's really critical. I think that there has been a rise in what I call DEI officers in the last couple of years, which is absolutely incredible. But what I think is really sad is a lot of people in these positions haven't been given any real power. And so, to the degree that we can partner with all those DEI officers and make sure that we can have this kind of solidarity of the messages and look and feel of what we create, I think is really critical. All right, learning technologies. So, you know, can you and will you use tools? I think thoughtfully. And will use thoughtfully really, kind of tongue in cheek here, but I will tell you, I have created things that didn't have a lick of technology behind them, but was super effective. Way back in the day when I was at Amazon, I had to, I think, share something out about something. And ended up, I just made a poster and hung it in the restrooms. I had it above urinals. I had it on the back of the stalls, and most people got the message because that was pre like super cell phone texty stuff, and I had a captive audience, so that was an easy way to get something out the door that didn't take a lick of technology, but it worked. So knowing kind of what that audience looks like, I think, is really critical. Project management, I sat in Laura's session yesterday. It was great, and she made a great point about sometimes you manage the project, sometimes there is a project manager. It just kind of depends on your organization, but being capable of managing your own project, I think, is really critical. And also being able to push forward and poke people and make sure that the ball keeps rolling is super, super critical in the work that we do. um Content design, I kind of spoke ad nauseum at that, but I think that that is the most critical part of what we do. Taking kind of what I call the fire hose of content and making sure that people can understand it and relate it to what they're doing and have safe places to practice and apply it is really critical. And finally, last but not least, measurement. What's the point? What's the point if you are not measuring, getting data, following up, etc.? Dr. Wilt Alheimer, another knowledge crush of mine, has probably the best book out there that I adore, that he has now taken off of Amazon, called Performance Focused Smile Sheet. He's currently working on a new version of it. I've poked him and said, "Hey, the world needs this now. Please hurry up." I'm just kidding. But that book changed my complete look at measurement and the need for it. So highly recommended if you can get like a used copy off Amazon. It is worth the time. All right. J Rock, I'm not touching that one. He has a game he likes to try to crack me up on camera. He's doing a good job. All right. And finally, strategic. So kind of at the top. First one is resource management. This is my daily hell. I'll put it that way. Of we're inundated. I always like to say the reward for good work is more work. We have so many projects that we could work on at any time, but I have a finite number of resources, and we also do in-person training, and we do all these other kind of projects as well. So knowing how to allocate resources appropriately, knowing how long things should take, knowing is this stakeholder kind of what I'm calling persnickety and not a good partner, or is this person somebody that works really well with us and we're able to crank things out pretty quickly because if we need feedback or need to talk to people or whatever, they help facilitate that. That's super important stuff to know. Not every stakeholder is created equal. Like I said earlier, people are weird. So it kind of just depends on the personality that you get. Also, lifelong learning. I think this is something that anyone can do from any point in their career, and I just think it's super, super critical. If you're not dedicated, continue keeping up with what's going on. This is not the right choice for you. It's not. I've seen way too many people get left behind, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, and now they're trying to figure out what to do with their lives. So don't be like them. Keep up with what's going on. Nice way to do that is, build relationships with other practitioners. There is a just wonderful community overall of learning and development that people support each other and help each other. So please be part of that. And if you take someone's time now, I always like to tell people to pay it forward when there's opportunity to do so. Trends and innovations. Is it time for everyone to get Oculuses? I don't know. Maybe not. But I think it totally depends on what your use case is, your organization, your plans, etc. So just because something is cute and shiny now doesn't mean you and your organization have to do it. But you need to be able to determine, is this a trend? Is this an innovation? And why is this something that we need in our organization? And finally, I think kind of the gold star of what we do is if you can make it to where your learning experience design is what I call proactive versus reactive. And that's been a challenge I've had in my own role the past year that my boss has been on me like, hey, be more proactive versus reactive. And I'm like, Lord of mercy, I'm putting out fires like every day. What does that mean? So for me, what that means is, we have a seat at the table. We know what's coming. We're in the planning. We have, kind of all this stuff coming. And so we know that we have new machines coming. We know that we have new products coming. So I can get ahead of building out support tools by having that information. If I didn't have a seat at the table, I couldn't do that. It would be, oh, hey, yeah, we got new machines in today. We need training for that next week. And then it would be complete bedlam. So hopefully that's helpful for the strategic standpoint. And I'm looking at the time I have, I'm doing pretty good. So I'm going to leave you with 10 tips for designing for users and impact. So if you're like, hey, I want to try something new, I want to do something a little bit different. Here are kind of my 10 tips to get you started. And no, J Rock, I don't think the Oculuses come with that accessory yet. All right. So first thing is first. You hear a lot, especially again if you're new. I know there's a lot of information out there talking very just all over the place about subject matter experts, but you need to actually talk to the people who do the work. Yeah, they're important. You will find so many times that the people that are subject matter experts are maybe leads or they're 2 or 3 degrees removed. They haven't been in what I call the trenches of doing the job for a while. And what they think is a problem and what they think is what I call common knowledge, you'll find most of the time no, it's not that way at all. It's actually done this way. And here are kind of the barriers and the various factors that go into what it is that people do. Because you'll find that there's usually a disconnect. There'll be the subject matter expert be like, well, I don't understand why they don't do it. The numbers aren't matching up or whatever. And instead of actually talking to people, oh, well, we need training. They're missing their numbers. And then you go talk, well, oh yeah, we're missing our numbers because that machine over there has been down for 3 months. Okay, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, right? So don't just take a subject matter expert's word for it. To the degree that we can kind of be the bridge and bring people together, that is going to increase from what I talked about earlier, the relational equity, strengthen those relationships, and it's going to help us more going forward. All right. This one, pretty self explanatory. What's in it for them? Why should they care? How are they going to relate this back to what they're going to be doing in their job? What is with that? And why is that important for them to do? Excuse me. All right. It's really critical. It should be very, very easy for them to see why this matters and what value it's going to have back to them. I think it's really important to embrace accessibility, to the degree that you can break the lock to navigation, ditching timers, and other things that can make it difficult for people to go through things at a slower pace, or maybe they get distracted, maybe they have something happen behind them or in the office. I think that's really, really critical. So to the degree that we can make those choices and not lock things down to empower people, I think it's really, really critical. This is a really hot take, but I hate with the flames of a thousand suns any learning experience that starts with the learning objectives. Pardon me one moment. Sorry, it's so spicy. It's making me cough. So the minute someone opens a learning experience, or the minute a learning experience starts, that is research based the best time that you have their attention. That's the best shot that you got. Why are you going to waste it by giving them learning objectives? Well, the purpose of this is blah blah blah. You just completely put them to sleep. Well, maybe I'm speaking from experience, but it looks like there are people that support this in the chat as well. So I really encourage you, if you're at an organization that makes you publish the learning objectives, there's other ways to do it. You can put it in the marketing that shares that this course is coming, this learning experience is coming. You can put it in the metadata, the LMS, which tells how long it takes, the purpose of the course, etc. Or what my favorite thing to do with it, I put them at the end. Hey, now this is over, you should be able to boom, boom, boom. And then what I love about that is it also can help, again, guide questions. It can guide follow up. So it can kind of be that last little pulse check for them before they finish the experience of, yeah, I can do that. Or, yeah, maybe I need more additional support there. Another big one, you can't boil the ocean. There is so much content out there. You'll often get way too much content for a project that you're doing. You need to be able to make the determination of what needs to stay in that experience, to take all of this and give them what I call a glass of water to drink, which is probably something I desperately need right now as well. So you want them to take it one sip at a time. And you want them to be able to kind of follow what is going on. Also, learning is a process. If you remember when you learned how to ride a bicycle, you probably fell a couple of times and got right back up and tried. This idea of one and done is so old and so antiquated, and it doesn't work. So I don't know why we're still doing this. So to the degree that we can add this with what I call performance support, so we can help people build mastery. You all, I think there is no training program on planet Earth that after one experience, they want people to be 100% masters. If you know that there is, please tell me, because I'd love to know it. But yet that is the standard that we are setting for our users when we do one and done. All right, this is something from Mike Taylor. I got his permission to share this, but embrace other techniques to communicate the message. So if we, hold on just 1 second, sorry. Goodness, I do apologize. Okay. So if we think about how learning and development would sell hamburgers, they would list out kind of all of the bullet points. Marketing sells it through pictures. So to the degree that we can embrace kind of other ways to get the message across, I think it's really critical. Data matters, but collect the right kind of data. I hate net promoters. Don't get me started on that. It's a vanity metric and tells me nothing about if someone was able to do their job better. Or just me, do they like me? Do they really like me? My boss doesn't care if I'm liked or not. He wants to know if there's value in what we're building. Also, I think it's important to eat your own dog food. So, like I said, if you're in this profession, continue to upskill yourself, continue to learn, continue to grow. If you're not willing to do that, why do you deserve someone else's time? That's a really hot take. All right, and then finally, know when it's good enough. I see so many people get hung up because they need to, beautify to down to a pixel. No one is going to like look that hard unless maybe you're Joe Suarez. I know he's here. Um, but get it out there, get some feedback, and really kind of push it out for others. So with that, that is all that I have. Tom, I will pop back on if anybody has any questions. If you want to connect with me, there are all the places to connect with me. I do ask though, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, please write up like a quick little message. I know that you came from here. I'm trying to keep away the solicitors, and if you try to pitch me, you get instantly. Well, actually, I can't block anymore because I'm at my block limit on LinkedIn. But yeah, just don't do that, please. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you all for hanging out with me on a Saturday afternoon or morning, and I really enjoyed being here.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. That was there's a whole lot to go away and think about there, isn't there? Fantastic. So if anyone's got any questions, now is the time. We have a couple of minutes. Do fire them over.
I love what Joe says about a big stack of one and done is a workplace safety hazard. I completely agree.
This is it. You got to, it's the same thing strikes me out the MPS is that it is it's slightly, but would you recommend what is often a mandatory workplace exercise? It's like, would you recommend wearing your hard hat and safety boots whilst doing your job?
Right.
If you require those things, it doesn't really matter whether you'd recommend them or not.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Lots of thank yous coming in, as you can see. Morgan loving your direct approach.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the unfiltered ID. So yeah, that's me. Oh, thank you.
Fantastic.
I will also be next week at the micro learning conference talking more about performance support. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I'd love to see you over there as well.
Awesome. I'll we did share a link for that the other day, but I will pop another one out in the main reception area. But yeah, it seems like you've covered everything, and everyone is just lots of thank yous coming in. So let's carry on with the day. Thank you so much again, Cara. In
My pleasure.
15 minutes, we've got Terry Godfrey joining us, designing more immersive e-learning solutions. And he's going to be showing us some of the things we can do with the 360-degree images in Storyline. So I will see you all then. In the meantime, thank you very much.